Welcome back to another video, and this is my collective eyeshadow palette review for February. Welcome back, and today we're doing, I think this is the first one of this year. Not sure. Yeah, I think this is the first collective eyeshadow palette review video for this year, because I do think that I did manage to do a collective makeup review video during the January, but because I think I just managed to film a collective eyeshadow palette review video for December, so that is why we didn't have a one for January, and now, this is the first one from this year. As always, the amount of palettes of these can vary, however, usually we have had the amount of 5 palettes, we're having 5 palettes today. There are some palettes that are, or actually I think 2 of these I have actually bought already during this year, so I bought them during January, but there were quite a few that are still the kind of palettes that I didn't manage to review during December, because there was quite a lot of things that I bought during December, and especially at the end of last November, because there was Black Friday and everything, so we are still trying to do a bit of catch up. I think sometimes I have also shown this in the order that which were the least favorite to my most favorite. I think what today we are going to do, I'm gonna show first one that I had most issues with. Then we had 3 palettes that I was kinda they all had some good things and some then maybe not so good things. And then lastly I'm gonna be showing the one that was my favorite. And as always on this section over here I will be putting on swatches and also 3 demo looks, so you will kind of see what kind of looks I made with these palettes. But let's get to the palettes now, and there are a couple of indie palettes, there's one high-end palette, and then there's one K-beauty palette, so we do have a quite good variety for today. Okay, let's maybe start with the palette that I think was my least favorite one. Also the high-end palette actually that we're going to be talking about. With that one I also did have bit issues, but I think with this one, this is the one that I had most issues with. So I finally bit the bullet and I actually bought one of the Milani palettes. So Milani is a US-based drugstore brand, however I think many other European beauty YouTubers usually say the fact that Milani is very expensive here in Europe. This was almost 30 euros, so definitely not even for drugstore, this is no longer I think a drugstore, it's more of a truly mid-range brand rather than being a very inexpensive drugstore brand. And aside from these palettes, a lot of others Milani's products, like their foundations, concealers, their cheek products, those also definitely not cheap. So this is the Luster Lights palette, and first I'm gonna be just showing how this is looking like, and actually maybe we'll do this so that I'm gonna just put it on the... I do think this is the palette that might be trying to dupe the Huda Beauty. It's one of her very old palettes, the one that was originally, it was Rose something, and someone already asked when I posted the swatch shorts of this one that this isn't new palette. Actually, I don't think Milani has been releasing, especially these bigger palettes, they haven't been releasing new ones in this series for quite some time, so also within Milani's line this isn't new. So first impressions when I saw this, the shimmers were definitely the standout that were impressive. I was really looking at this in the store, and even when I got this home I was thinking, okay, the shimmers are looking quite impressive, so maybe this could be a very good option. And for 30 euros, if it's good quality, then I do think that compared to many high-end and indie palettes, that is still definitely much less expensive. So I was thinking that okay, let's give this one a try. Now I'm gonna be showing the swatches and looks, and even the swatches kind of looked okay, but then when I started using this, you can kind of see it already from the looks that the looks are quite pretty. You can get very pretty looks with this one, but unfortunately to get some of these I really had to work quite hard. So first of all, regarding the depth of this one, so you would think, for example, that okay, we have a couple of shades to do depth. We have the red here, and then I believe there's a purple here, and then you can actually this more shimmery shade that's actually more satin on the lid here. But actually this berry red over here, I really had to do a lot of building to get this to show up at the opaqueness that was in the pan. And I don't think that even with building up, I still wasn't able to get it to show up as deep as it goes in the pan. So I'm already missing that, okay, but then I'm stuck with basically 2 similar looking deepening up shades, which are these eggplanty purple colors over here. These 2 did work out quite okay as a deepening up shade. With these ones I didn't feel that I had to build them. Then regarding the other mattes, definitely the other mattes are very light, and also to get them to show up again, with a lot of them I had to do a lot of building up to get them to like appear, and I'm just thinking that okay, as someone who has a relatively fair skin, if it takes quite a lot to work to get them to show up on me, then how is that gonna be for anyone who has a deeper skin tone than I do? The next part, which was a bit disappointing, is that some of these shimmers aren't as sparkly on the lids as they appear in the pans. So with these shimmers, I had this bit of similar issue with one of the new Catrice's eyeshadow palette that I actually reviewed on my sort of collective Catrice like review, where I reviewed basically the Catrice's winter or spring update for the 2025. And with these shimmers, some of these sparkly shimmers, there's a similar issue that they look very, very sparkly in the pan, they even look sparkly on swatch out, but when you start spreading them on your lids, something just happens that the shimmer kinda particles seem to like dissipate to somewhere. So basically, I was kind of like with some of the shimmers, they actually, especially at the end of the days, were looking more like satin shades rather than actually like the sparkly shimmers that I usually thought that I applied. Is this still something that if you buy this, I do think that if you have, for example, a similar skin tone than I do, then I do think you are able to make this work, but that is where like my biggest issue lies, that for 30 euros, I don't want my palettes to be something that I have to really put a lot of effort to make them work. If there would have been like a couple of Dutch shades for this price point, then that would have been like fine. I could have definitely like been like that, okay, that's yeah, there are a couple of Dutch shades, but for 30 euros it's otherwise pretty decent eyeshadow. And I did like the color story of this one, this kind of rosy gold color story that was very trendy at some point. I'm kind of being like more maybe grading towards back to this kind of color story, but it's just that I feel that the formula execution of this one, like I think that if the shimmers would have worked as well as they seem to look in the pans and in the swatches that I did initially, then I think I could have looked past the matte shades, but because also the shimmers aren't as they appear in the pans compared then when you get them to the lid. So that is why I think that after I reviewed this one, I think I'm going to be decluttering this one, because I know that I'm not going to be reaching for this one since I had to do so much work to get this to work on me. So next let's go to the high-end palette that I have for this video. So this was actually my Cyber Monday purchase when I was at a work trip in Brussels. So I bit the bullet, I got the Huda Beauty Icy Nudes. I didn't get this because she was saying this is the last big palette. Again, I believe she's gonna do, the second big palettes are gonna be trendy again. She's gonna be doing a big palette. I just think this is gonna be last big palette in a while, so it could be like for the 2025 we probably aren't gonna be getting this one. So about this color story, I'm just going to be opening this up. So this is how it's looking like. I do like, when I saw the color story, my initial impressions were still, and I will stand by my initial impression when I talked about this on my makeup news video, that there are a lot of similar shades, and that it also translates to the actually using this palette. So for example, you can kind of see these sort of very pale brown shades over here. They look kind of similar, and then you have these sort of very pale two shades over here. They too look very similar once you get them to your eye. So what I initially thought when I saw this revealed that actually like kind of happened when I started using this, that there are a bit too many repetitive shades. The second big issue, this has everyone I think who I have seen reviewing this has a pressed glitter. And it's not even one of those, because we do have a K-Beauty palette in this review video coming. It's not even a pressed glitter that would have some kind of adhesive that it would be like easy to use or somehow innovative. It's actually one of those very dry pressed glitters that when I just try to scratch my finger to it, I'm just gonna try to... Like I did scratch quite hard, and you can probably see there's like only few individual sparkles that come out of it. So for me, the glitter, it's not only the fact that it's a pressed glitter, but it's also just unusable. Like I tried with few looks that I did with this one, I did try to like dab a bit of the glitter over the eyeshadow that I used underneath, but it was just because it's just like sparse, dry glitter particles. There's really no like added effect of using this one, so that's already like a throwaway shade on this palette. However, I think, well, like the third one, why this is like what sort of made me quite like, how should I say this? I'm gonna actually now pop in the looks and the swatches. So you can kind of see it already from the looks that you don't get a lot of depth with this one, and that's pretty odd because when you look at it, this does look like it has deepening up shades, but unfortunately, like for me at least, when I used this, a lot of the deepening up shades, they didn't go that deep. For my particular skin tone, actually I was able to get the kind of depth that I like, but I'm just wondering that for anyone who has again a deeper skin tone than I did, that are you gonna be able to use this one, because there seems to be a limit how much you can build even deeper shades. Second thing that I'm gonna say, a lot of the brown shades end up looking pretty similar on your eyes. So I think this is a palette that she could have honestly done in her 9-pan format. Something a bit strange also, this does have a couple of like these very, how should I describe these? I'm gonna be, yeah. So these two shimmers over here, these look like they are very impactful, and they are actually very impactful in the eyes, but their formula is kind of this very strange, almost like it reminds me about some of the original indie shimmers we used to have during like, before like indie shimmers actually, like indie brands became popular. They're just very like almost crumbly when you get them from your pan. You definitely can't use your brush on those. So what I actually ended up doing with those shimmers was that I picked up some with my finger, and then I sort of dabbed my finger on the palm of my hand to sort of ease out the crumbles before putting it into my eyes, because if I would have just swiped it to my eyelids directly, it would have been like a shimmer fallout under my eyes. The shimmers do look beautiful once you get them to your eyes, but I'm just like questioning, because this was again one of her like expensive palettes that for this price I am expecting all the formulas, the shimmer formulas and the matte formulas, to be like impeccable, and Huda can do good shimmer formulas, so I'm just wondering that why did we have to have this sort of pressed glitter, then this crumbly shimmer shades that are really like, feel like very old formulas in general of what we have seen with eyeshadow palettes in like recent years altogether. So I think I'm gonna be keeping this around, because I actually, even though this might have been sounding very negative review, I did actually end up liking the looks that I got with this one. I do think that there is like the brown tones that this has, this isn't a cool tone palette. I do think the Icy Nudes is a very misleading name for this one, because this I think definitely is quite warm leaning palette when you actually start using the different kind of shades. But for me this is actually pretty good palette, and for me I did manage to get the sort of depth that I also like from my looks, but there was definitely a limit to how like smoky or deep you could go with the even deeper shades. So maybe with this one, definitely if you have the possibility, go to a store and swatch this out and see especially how the different kind of shades look against your particular skin tone, because I think this might be a palette that just necessarily doesn't work for everyone, and be prepared that some of the shimmer formulas maybe aren't as up to par as maybe with some other like high-end brands. Then let's move to an indie palette that I think this was actually like, no, this was the second palette I bought from this brand during last year. So I got the Glossgods Molten Metals eyeshadow palette, so this was their sort of holiday palette for this year. This is also kind of interesting design. They haven't really, I think, done these rectangular palettes. Usually they do the square ones that have actually more shades in them. So this has altogether 2, 4, 6, 7, yeah. So this has 10 shades in it, and with the team Molten Metals, this is kind of like a neutral palette that has very impactful shimmers. In terms of like formula, I think this is definitely a new formula for them, so I think this might have been a palette that they released to test out how people are reacting to their new formula. I think Glossgods' formula previously, some of their original palette had these very sort of chunky OG indie shimmers that I think we are now a bit past in the makeup community. But this definitely, especially compared to the more brown, sort of bronzy palette that I did try out also from there during last year, the shimmer formula in this one, it felt a bit like almost creamier. It definitely had more shine than the shimmers in the sort of bronzy neutral palette. Can't remember again the name. I actually did end up decluttering that one, because I think it was the shimmer formula was actually a bit on the dry side and it wasn't that versatile. You can kind of get, I'm gonna now pop in the looks and swatches. You can get like pretty much two kind of looks with this one. You're either gonna get some kind of silver leaning look, or you're gonna get some sort of brown neutral leaning look. Now regarding the shimmers are definitely the like the main thing of this palette. The matte quality, I think the matte quality is the same matte quality that I have tried in the past Glossgods palette, so I don't think the matte quality, I don't think they have done too much reformulation with that one, but the shimmers are the star of the show. But I will have to say, for some people these shimmers might be a bit too much. You can definitely, if you're wearing one of these shimmers, like you're gonna have people stopping you and asking that, okay, where are you wearing your eyes? But because the shimmers are so impactful and so opaque, I'm thinking that especially if you're someone who has a bit more like maybe texture on your lids, or if you have mature lids, and if you for example have lids that have like eyeshadow creases easily, then I don't think this is a palette that you will like, because these are definitely, it's not a sort of thick formula to the point that it's like feels heavy and it's unusable, but it is definitely more of a creamier formula that I do think that on some lid types might crease during the day if eyeshadow tends to do that to you. I think this is something that I'm gonna be keeping around. I don't think this is a palette that I might use again for maybe to try to do cohesive look, so this is definitely maybe a palette that I might try to use with my other neutral palettes in the future, because I do think maybe with the neutrals we are a bit limited, because it has like 5 neutrals over here, and I do appreciate having a one deepening up shade, even though I'm not a person who necessarily needs a matte black in their palettes. But then we have these 2 brown shades over here. These look very basically quite similar when you get them to your eyes. So I would have rather, and also maybe I'm not a person who necessarily thinks that a white shade is a must. So I think with the matte shades they could have maybe done some thinking, because I do think you can make a workable cohesive palette with 5 mattes and 5 shimmers, but I do think that with the matte shades they chose, they could have maybe gone back to a drawing board and thought out that they have done more with including maybe with different kind of mattes, because then I do think this would have already been a bit more versatile palette. But for the shimmer shades, and because for me I was pretty impressed with how impactful these were, this is so far staying in my collection. But I do think the shimmer formula of this one, as I said, it's not probably for everybody. Let's go to the K-Beauty palette that I have for this one. So we had some more new of the Rom&nd palette. So Rom&nd is a brand that has been sold in our sort of K-Beauty stores. We actually do have brick and mortar K-Beauty stores in our country, so I don't necessarily have to order those things online. And we used to have some like 3 palettes from the brand, but now they actually brought out more, and actually Rom&nd is now also sold in some of our like mainstream department stores. So what was this name again? Because these also, so this is the 07 Berry Fuchsia Garden, so this is how this is looking like, and I'm gonna be actually showing this one close up because it's a smaller palette. So as always with Rom&nd, they have had, some of these are full on matte palettes and some of them have only 1 shimmers, but then they do these mixed palettes where they basically, I think the split is so that they have mattes, then they have the one this shade over here, which is the glitter with adhesive, not my favorite shades, but this I think is one of the only forms of glitter shadows that I can actually work with. And then I think this has like 3 like normal regular shimmer shades. This is definitely quite of a me color story. I actually do think that this, like considering also what generally K-Beauty brands come out with, this is actually has quite nice variety of like depth and light. Also I do like the fact that we have something a bit more punchier with the shimmers, so we have this hot pink over here. And I do also think that this sort of shimmer glitter shade with adhesive is actually quite, wouldn't call it maybe unique, but it is definitely bringing something special, because it has the sort of lilac that has a bit of a like, quite a like bit of a shift to it. I'm gonna pop in now the looks you can see, and surprisingly so I do think I was able to get kind of versatile looks with this one. I do think what you should be aware of the fact that some of these like the 4 shades like in this section, you do have to like, just like I think with the Pampas Garden palette, that was the peach palette that I have, you did have to build those a bit to get them short. But what again surprised me positively in this formula, that you could actually build up the shade, so it wasn't the fact that you were building and building and then you were still ending up with sheer eyeshadow like matte formula, because I do know with some K-beauty and other Asian beauty brands, the issue has been that the matte formulas don't build that well, but you can actually build them to show up. Just be aware that you might not get the full payoff at the first swipe. Also, I do like the fact that we do actually genuinely have two deepening, like deeper shades over here. For some reason this brown turns kind of mauve on me, but it could also be related to the other shades that are included in this one. I do think overall I do like this much more than the peach, the Pampas Garden one, because that is very heavy peach leaning palette. There wasn't actually a lot you can do with that one, but because this one actually does have bit variety with the shades and tones, I do think that this is actually something that I might want, that I'm actually gonna keep in my collection. I think I might consider that when I'm next time gonna be decluttering my eyeshadow palettes, that will actually declutter the Pampas Garden one, because with this one I can genuinely say that I do kind of like this pink lilac leaning color story, and this actually has the versatility that I like in my palettes. And this also shows that you can do a small palette and that has very like versatile, like you can then create versatile, it has versatile color stories that you can create different looks with it. My only like downside about this one, as I said, there is the glitter with adhesive, and with the glitters I would recommend, if you, when you wash your makeup off and if you're using the glitter adhesive shade, is that you first take the shimmer shade with a oil-based cleanser before you go to the shower, and then use your normal cleansers. It will come off, like when I do the step that I actually use an like oil-based cleanser initially to take the glitter off, and then I do my normal like face cleansing routine, you're gonna get the makeup off. I didn't have the issue that I had like glitter particles all over my face when I just made the extra step before going to the shower, that I took the glitter shade off. And at least with this one there is adhesive to it. You definitely don't need a separate glitter glue. The glitter shade will stick to your lids, and that is the like positive thing that I can find with these K-beauty palettes, that at least the glitters are like usable on their own. Still not something that I would prefer. I would just rather have traditional shimmers, but if they're gonna do it, it's at least good that they're doing it in this kind of way. And as I promised, we're saving the favorite to the last. So from my brother, he again did manage to be quite clever in what he picked from the sort of list of palettes that I told him that you can like pick a palette here as my Christmas present. He's been very good at this in the last couple of years. So I got the Cosmic brushes, or it's actually now Cosmic Beauty Neutrals palette, and this is the neutral palette that I skipped during last year on my own, because I was like thinking that there were so many neutrals coming out that this just kind of was at that point thinking that I don't need another one. But I did include this in the sort of list of palette, like sort of my Christmas list palettes that my brother could pick out, and he picked this one. And I do I'm kind of happy that I didn't have to spend my own money to this one, and added to that, I do like love this a lot. Like I'm like thinking that I was like when I had the first week, because I usually try the palettes out for the like 2 weeks rotation that I usually rotate my makeup in. During the like already after the first week, I was like thinking that, gosh, why did I wait? What was I thinking waiting to get this? But I'm happy that I got this as a gift. So this is one of those it's a neutral palette with a twist. So you have traditional neutral shades, and then as always with Cosmic brushes, and especially with this one, then you have some like shiftier like neutral shimmers, and you do have like a bit of color, so you have some olives and yellows in here. I'm gonna like, again, you will see the looks here. I do think like this was very enjoyable palette to create looks with, and I genuinely liked all the looks that I got with this one. I had to force myself to put this away because I do have the rotation system, and that also ensures that I also have new makeup to discuss and review on this channel. But I was kind of thinking that, gosh, could I just keep it in my like rotation for a bit more, but the show must go on, as they say. So yeah, this is like beautiful in a way that if you just need a quick basic eyeshadow look, for example, it's an occasion that you need just something very toned down, you can get it with this one. You don't have to go crazy with the sort of shifty shimmers that it has, or the sort of yellows and olives. But if you want then a twist to your neutral look, you want it to be somehow special, then you can also do that with this one. The quality, impeccable, Cosmic Beauty quality, beautiful. The mattes are buttery, but they're pigmented and you can blend them. The shimmers are beautiful. We have a bit of different kind of shimmer formulas in this one, but they all work really well. The longevity of the shades excellent. It's just a beautiful palette, and I'm pretty excited. I'm actually, the moment I'm filming this, I actually did end up ordering in the same week's Friday that I'm filming this, I did end up ordering their Valentine's palette, so I am again very excited to try out more from the brand, because I wasn't buying from the brand last year, and if I would not have gotten this for a Christmas present, I think last year would have been the first year that I would not have bought anything from the brand. But this has gotten me again excited about the brand. I'm very excited about the Valentine's Day palette that they released, and if you have been still eyeing this one, I would like 100% recommend getting this, because I don't think it's very easy to come out cohesive looks with, but there's also like something very special about this one. So far, I think like from all the palettes that I tried during 2025, and yeah, okay, we're still in February, so we're not very like that long in this year, but so far this is like the favorite palette that I've tried doing this year. But again, we are not that far from this year, so there's probably gonna be more come, but beautiful, excellent, would recommend if you've been eyeing this one. So that was my palette review for this month. Comment down below, have you tried any of these palettes, and if you have tried them, how did you like them? And if you didn't like something that I ended up liking, or vice versa, you liked something that I didn't like, that's okay, and you can talk about it in the comments. Just be nice about it, and it's at the end of the day just pressed powder, and each of us do have our different skin types and preferences, so that always affects how we like our makeup. I do think that despite the fact that there was like maybe only the Cosmic Beauty palette was like the only very like top favorite, I do still think that like we still are on the plus side, because I did like, aside from the Milani palette, I did like, for example, the looks that I came out with the rest of the 4 palettes. So even though I did have some critical points about the other palettes, I do still think each of them also had something good in them. If you like this video, push the like button, subscribe to the channel, or ring the bell button if you want to get notifications from my future content. You can also find me with the nickname Makeup Hedgehog on Instagram. I hope I can see you soon in another video. Bye bye!